So remember doing this with past sentences where we took it and changed it into, we've taken a statement and made it a question, either yes, no, or a WH question. We've played around with taking a sentence and making it negative. So we're going to do the same thing now, but we're going to add a tag question on the end. So we're going to be a little bit more complicated than we did in the past. And it's one of those, I didn't do this, did you? I didn't see this, did you? So all we're adding really is that did you, or have you, or will you, whatever. Same process we've done with a whole bunch of other stuff. Identifying, is there a location, is there a time, what is the topic, and putting all that together, and then making sure that we feel comfortable making it a negative. So it may seem like a lot, but if you look, we've done everything but just a little bit is new. Everything else we've done, we're just sort of putting pieces together now. Vocab isn't that much, and I put the vocab at the end with videos. This one I had already cut, so we have those in there. So I have a video for each of these towards the end, so take a look at that. So to start off with, I want to look at the negations first. We're not going to worry about the tag question until much later, right? So let's get through all of them. They're in the videos. You'll see them, but I don't want to play around with them. You can. I'll just recommend take it one step at a time. Start out with just looking at how to make these negatives. So I have no money. I don't eat meat. I didn't bring my USB. I don't want to see the movie. I don't know how to make coffee. My parents don't allow smoking in the house. Okay. So first thing to do is take a look at how do you translate? So is there a location or a time? And remember, we're looking at that old sentence order that I gave. I gave it in ASL 1 for many of you. You may have just seen it in ASL 2 from me if you had someone else. But that idea that it's time, location, then any objects you're talking about. The last one is whatever does the action, right? So that's the subject. Then the verb, which is the action. Anything that modifies the verb. So it could be past tense, it could be negative, it could be future tense. So that's a sort of catch-all for anything that immediately ties into the verb and changes that meaning. Since we don't have tenses, we don't conjugate. And then the last would be question word. If we're going to ask what or where at the end of all of that, or why. Right? So taking a look at those first two, time and location. And if there is one in there, then remember, you set it up by introducing it with your eyebrows up. My hair is crazy today. Then all of these are going to end with a negation, which means we're not going to have a question. Well, the question is the do you at the end. And remember when we did topic comment? If a sentence is confusing to figure out what's the subject and the object and all that, if you go back and look at what's the topic, what is it I'm talking about? And sometimes there are multiple ways you can frame these. The first one is pretty simple, like money. I have none. I didn't bring my USB. You could say, bring my USB. I didn't. It's kind of awkward. It's probably my USB. It's more clear to go, my USB, here's the topic I'm talking about. I didn't bring. What do I do? Or bring not. Either one works. So if you can look at this and go, well, it looks like it should be this way, but I feel better doing it this way. Or which one of these two is the right way to do it? Practice them both. Because in general, they probably both could be signed in the right situations. We know with English that we can play tricks with sentences to highlight what information we want, right? If you really want something as a kid, if you really wanted something for Christmas, but you didn't really want to come out and tell your parents, I want this for, or my birthday, probably better. I want this for my birthday. So you thought of, well, if I frame it this way, if I tell them I want this, they're not going to get it to me just because they want to teach me a lesson, right? But if I say, I need something for this and I don't know what to do, and they will, we can lead them to think this, then that's great, because I've just sort of manipulated them to think that they made that thought when I've been planning it all along. We know we can manipulate English like that. Well, we can do the same thing with ASL. If I'm trying to think, as sentences get more complicated, there's more flexibility to move things around. So if you can't decide one way or another to sign it both ways or all three ways. If one feels better, great. Then you've probably got your answer. If it's tough to sign, that probably means it's not a very good grammatical sentence in ASL. A good grammatical sentence in ASL usually seems pretty clear and simple, and it doesn't feel like you're going back and forth too much. If, however, both feel fine, there's a good chance that both of those sentences would be acceptable. And without seeing the specific sentence, I can't give any direct feedback. But really, even to the extent of, I harp on saying me versus my, but you will see a lot of times people say, and I've told you, no, you should do my. It's because the way we think it in English is my name. In ASL, when people do this is a question. Who am I? The name is this. So it is literally a different sentence on the inside than we do it in English, which is why I harp to make sure people get this is my, and anytime you're thinking possessive, my, you do this. There are some instances where me is appropriate, but it's because the ASL sentence is actually being phrased differently. So that being said, if you can't decide which way to sign, what's the right order, do them both. It really ends up being a question of, can you make yourself feel comfortable doing both of them? And I know that sounds like a cop-out on the whole grammatical side of things, but it's actually not. ASL has a very fluid structure that we're chaining ideas together, and depending on what you emphasize and where you put it, which you stay on longer, which one has eyebrows go up, it changes the intent of the sentence. I could go on forever, bring in discussions about how Shakespeare ordered his sentences for the stage and ordered paragraphs and whole sections of his plays in order to get information out in exactly the right way that he wanted. But we're not going to go down that path because this is an ASL class. So what I'm doing with this first set of sentences is, you've got the sentence, and what you're going to do is start with, how do I say the positive version of this? I have money. Right? Or money, I have. Then you just flip it to negative. Since it's just two signs, you can go no money. In a longer thought, you'd want to organize it a bit better. So it is more ASL technically to go. So that's the topic. Money, eyebrows up, money, none. So what I've done is, I kept the instructions right there. Here's the sentence. Think about it positive, flip it to negative, and then here's the video of the example from the book signing it. Same thing with I don't eat meat. First sign, I eat meat. Then how do I flip it to not? You can always eat meat, not. It feels kind of clunky. So either one of those works. Okay. So practice both sides of that so you get the feel. Because so much of ASL is how does it feel? How do you feel? In English, we will read things aloud to see if it sounds right, to know if it's correct. In ASL, you've got to sign it. Same thing. Does it feel right or does it not feel right? And there's the video. So for each of these, and I think it's 6 sentences. Yeah. And on the 7th sentence, starting with the 7th sentence, 7 to 12, did the same thing. I've not been to Hawaii yet. We're starting to introduce some new signs. And again, they're all at the end of this PowerPoint. So if you need to pause here, jump down, look over the vocab, that would probably be a good time to do it. The sentences in the second half are a little bit more complicated. So you kind of have to stop and think, all right, I've not been to Hawaii yet. So the location is Hawaii. The negative is not yet, right? So we go back to incorporating the negative signs for have. Right? And then what is been to? Went to, sure. Visited, sure. In the vocab, we show that we use this, touch, finish touch, or not yet touch. My voice dropped, touch. It's a very ASL way of, boom, I've been there, boom. If you think about those tours where it's like every day you go to a different country in Europe, that's where this comes from. So my parents used to love those kind of trips where we'd hit one city one day. I'm like, can we at least have a meal in the city so we get to know what the food in Memphis is like? I don't know. I guess my parents didn't like dry rub. Anyway, so we use this for touch. So I have not yet been to Hawaii. So Hawaii, see Hawaii, right? So Hawaii, and I recommend establishing a location because if you're for these sentences, you don't need it. But if this is the start of a story and you're going to talk about Hawaii, why you want to go, you want to establish it. So I recommend in these kind of example sentences, establish those things. And if it gets boring to use the same point, break it up with, so my teacher, she told me, but Hawaii is over there. So Hawaii, boom, me, not yet touch. That's one way of doing it, right? So go through each one, watch the video, copy the video. If you think, well, I wrote it down this way, try it your way. Let's see if it works. That's the best way to know. So anyway, I put all of the videos for this second batch after the last sentence. So I think this time, if you go through each one, figure it out, and don't look for the answer. Go to the next one. Don't get to 12, then watch them all and see how well you did. Again, you can cut down if you need the reassurance. That's fine. I'm just trying to give you a little bit more of a challenge. So there are that batch. Now I want to look at the tag questions. So watching it and adding money. So the do you could simply be because we know it's reflexive, right? We all know that question, right? And it's not just this. There's a raising of the eyebrows, and you're like, because that's a yes or no question. Do you? Have you? Will you? So we need to see a definite change in facial expression for that grammar, because you're like, Negative, negative, negative. I don't eat meat. How about you? If it helps, think of the voice of Scooby-Doo. Oh, okay. I know it's silly, but it helps with that physicality. Again, if you feel a little silly, it means you're probably doing the sign language right. If you feel cool, you're probably sucking and not doing it right. And you're dead in the face. I'm too good for this, Claire. I don't know. Let's make it up. Okay. So they're paired up in here just so you can do them two at a time. And then there's all the questions just to give you a bunch of times to practice it. And then, as I said, here is all the vocab. I think they're in the right order. Test, to take up, and test were flipped when I was putting the videos in. So hopefully I got that straightened out. But really, 811, if you've been feeling pretty good about doing the negatives, doing the translations for have, it's really a piece of cake if you can kind of just get in that feel. Have a drink, relax, don't get all stressed about it, and just try to sign it as sillily as you can. Cool. So that's 811. Again, this is a long talk about it, but there's really not that much new information. It's just getting used to a couple of new ways of saying not yet and incorporating vocab we've done, and then adding that at the end.